we've seen each other a few different times and chatted and whatever, but this is more of a real conversation than we've ever had. And you're I like Dan. I like you're smart. You've thought about things. You're compassionate. You're also convicted. Like, I feel like you have beliefs that are strong in all different ways, not just religious, but other ways too. And so I'm really glad that this conversation is led so strongly with Dan. And, because I really like Dan. I mean, yes, Larry makes people laugh and these other roles make people laugh, but it's magic. It's for comedians. You can get people to fall in love with you with a role, but it's really like the deep true love is comes through when you show who you really are. And so I'm glad you've been so open about so many things.
You know what, Dan? I'm always open. I'm always open. I'm always honest. There's no need to lie to anybody. And when you said that, it's funny. It reminds me of another person that said that to me was John Lasseter from Pixar. When people asked me, John Lasseter said to me that he loved it that I voiced Mater and he got to hang around me because he said, not only does he said the same thing. He goes, man, I love Larry the Cable Guy. It's so funny. He goes, but I really like hanging out with Dan. I really like Dan. And he said, the closest you'll get to me and is Mater, because Mater is the Larry voice, but Mater is my personality, is my character. I talk like Larry the Cable Guy from Mater, but when I came up with the inflections and the hey Miss Sally, hey, like when I came up with all of the heart stuff, that was basically, I was just throwing me into it, just putting me into the character. But I used the Larry accent. But that's why John Lasseter, that's what he loved about it. He said, man, I see both of you in Mater after hanging out with you. I see both of you. I see the character and I see Dan in Mater. But it's just funny you say that because he said the same thing. But hey, I'm like everybody else. I'm not perfect. I do my best. I try to be kind to everybody. Sometimes you know how it is. Sometimes you just blow a top and you got those days where you lose your self-control and you just got to be alone. And I have very few of those days. But everybody does have those days. Obviously, I'm not perfect. And let me say this as well to you. And this isn't a butt kissing session for either one of us, but I have to say this for you. Because you said it's just hard when you go out in public and you have to do this and you have to do that. And I get it, man. I get it. Sometimes there's nothing worse than people. Then you know what I mean? If I could, I would never leave the house just to avoid people. Sometimes you get in that mood. You know what I mean? But I'll tell you, we went down to a race. I've been to a ton of races. I've been to the Grand Marshal a bunch of times. But the last few times I've taken my kids because they're old enough to enjoy it. But we were at that race and we were at the race in Kansas City. And man, you were so kind to my kids. My daughter has been a Danica Patrick fan ever since that day in Kansas City. Because you were so nice to them and they were just really enamored at how nice you were. So they both said when they left their favorites were Danica Patrick and Ryan Newman because they were so nice to them.
That's so sweet. Thanks for sharing that story.
Yeah, so you do a really good job at that.
Thanks.
And I know a lot of times.
What was taking a little extra time with the kids? Because they can't reason. Like an adult can reason and go, you're working, or you probably have somewhere to go. But a kid doesn't really know. A kid, the kid just goes, oh, my favorite person just walked by and didn't say anything to me or ignored me or, they weren't very nice, and that sticks. Right. And they're so impressionable. I mean, the molding of a child, I mean, it's happening most aggressively until about the age of about 6 to 8. And so to have an effect on a kid like that is a really cool thing. And, you were talking about a lot about kids and we're talking about Pixar and cars. And I found it amazing to hear just how impressionable, how meaningful it was for you to be a part of Pixar versus, let's say, the Blue Collar Comedy Tour, which that's where, I mean, that like puts you on the map. I mean, 6 years of touring with, you know, a lineup of amazing comedians. I mean, you know, it made all, I mean, I remember watching it as a kid, you know, it was a huge deal, but Pixar is what hits home. And I'm wondering why that is.
Oh man, I'm so old. You were a kid watching this.
I hear that about me too. So, hey, people are like, you know, even I feel like, oh my God, my boyfriend even said, he's like, you know, when I met you, I thought you were going to be a lot older. Like I didn't realize you were, you know, in your later 30s. Cause I remember being in high school and you were a big deal. And I'm like, oh my God.
See, that's awesome that he would say that. See, I get stuff like, wow, he's still alive. That's a whole different range.
Hey man, we're just climbing the ladder.
Oh my gosh. Now, what was your question?
It was just about Pixar. I just, you know, I'm wondering like, what makes it hit home in your heart so much that is the thing that is the most, seemingly from what I have heard, really one of the most meaningful things that you've done.
Well, that's really meaningful because first of all, it's an organization and they make movies that every huge A-list actor wants to do. They all want to do it for their kids or their grandkids, or they all want to do a Pixar movie. So the fact I not only got picked to do a character in one, but it turned into 3 and a theme park. I mean, it's really a dream come true. I liked it because I had kids, and I was able to bring in a whole nother group of people. That's why my act started to change, because I had kids. Once you have kids, you start to think differently. You have different priorities. It's not about you anymore. It's about your kids, and you want your kids to grow up good. You want them to give them a good foundation. You want them to see their dad in some things that are really cool so that's when I just started writing things different, keeping the same thing. You know, the character's the character. You can't flip, you know, but writing jokes that I'm more comfortable with kids. And since Pixar came along, that was perfect, because I'd already started to adjust my act and to try to change everything. And then here came Pixar. But I think the cool thing about it was John hired me because of the voice. He loved the voice. The voice was his tow truck. And I had worked so hard on developing this and marketing myself and doing these radio stations for no pay, a lot of them, for years. No, and just in the back of my mind wondering, at some point, this is going to have to lead to something, because it's getting more and more popular. It already led to the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. So, you know, let's see what else happens. And by gosh, I would have never dreamed when I first did that voice on stage, when in probably in the late 80s, never would I have dreamed that was the start of a Pixar character. I would have never dreamed. And it's just really cool to see the development from the very first time I went on stage. That I'm a big rodeo fan. So I used to watch
rodeo.
Yeah, I used to watch Mesquite Championship Rodeo with Donnie Gay on Sunday nights. And I went on stage with a cowboy hat one time because I used to do some characters. I just put a hat on. And for 3 minutes, I went, well, we rode that bull yesterday. He took us up to pay winded. I took a shot in the shorts, but we went up. That's what it started with. Got an okay laugh. The next day I went up and I did it as a cable installer, because I literally had a cable installer come to our house in Florida. And he was just kind of a bumbling guy that thought he had the wrong house, but he wasn't sure. And, because the number's on the house, and so I just went on stage for the first time and I went, hey, do you order cable? well, somebody's ordered something here because we've been driving around this neighborhood, 7:45. Yeah, well, this is the house. You know, and I literally did like a 3-minute bit that got pretty good. But I would have never dreamed in a million years that that night that would have developed into the character Mater. And so
Is this cable guy? Does this cable guy know who he is?
I have no idea. He's probably dead now. He was probably 70, 40 years ago, or however long it was. But yeah, so it's just, that's why it was really cool. It was just a culmination of something that I created in my head that just boom. And that's just a cool feeling, you know?
To go backwards in time then to the in-between from the birth of, you know, this voice and doing stuff on the radio. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're the voice of, you know, this huge character in Cars, is the Blue Comedy Tour and Blue Collar Comedy Tour. What was that like? I mean, what is it like to have a room full of comedians? Like, I'm sure you guys are, I mean, I think from my experience, sometimes people don't realize that you might not interact that much.
Right.
In certain environments. Like there'd be times I go to the racetrack and, you know, there's certain drivers that you literally would only see in their car on the track, and you'd actually never see them in passing on other points, and maybe during driver intros or something like that. But just for a split second, you don't hang out with them. You don't
but people
them. So what was it really like? Like, were you guys ever hanging out, or was there separation? You know, I know Foxworthy's flying in on his jet and, you know, doing the thing, but was there real camaraderie? Was there not? How was it really?
Well, first of all, the funny thing about the progression of Blue Collar Comedy Tour was hilarious because Jeff flew in on the jet. We all flew in on Delta. And then by the time the third one was over, we left to go home. There was 4 jets lined up.
Because jets are the best. I know. I'm sure I sound like such a dick right now, but they really are.
No, absolutely. I mean, if you're blessed enough to do it. But here's the thing about it. What people don't get about it. You don't take a jet unless there's money on the other end. You budget it out that when you want to take family trips, you can take X amount and take the jet. You don't want to do it if there's not money on the other end. But here's the thing about the jet. People go, these blue collar guys flying around. Well, you know what? It's pretty hard to get from Michigan to St. Joe to Texas to Florida in 4 days on commercial airlines. You can't do it. And you work so much, you have to find a way to get somewhere quick so you can be with your family. That's what it was all about. Believe me. If I could have saved money getting somewhere quick, a lot cheaper, I'd have done it. But you can't do it and be an entertainer and do 280 days on the road and still spend time with your family. So I was one of the things was I was fortunate though. A lot of those times I had the family truckster. We toured in a tour bus together. So on those blue collar dates where we could get there in 8 to 10 hours on a tour bus, we would just take the bus out and I'd be with my wife and my kids, and it was awesome. But as far as the thing goes, you know what? Jeff and I have been friends since 1986. He's like my adopted brother. I love him with all my heart. I very infrequently ran into Ron White. I knew Ron. I met him a couple of times. He was awesome. He was my friend. I mean, he was a nice guy, funny, but I'd only seen him a couple of times. I didn't know Bill Engvall for squat. Never worked with him, didn't know him. I just knew he was on there. So when I joined the tour, that was the first time I was introduced to those two guys. But as we progressed and toured together and shows together, we were a tight-knit group. We all were very close to one another. We had regular little brother fights like you would normally have, little snippets here and snippets there and get mad here at something. But in the end, at the end of the night, it was all good. We would never let that go into the next day because not only did we have something good going, we didn't want to ruin it, but we were truly friends and we did truly care about each other. And we knew that we never got jealous of the other one's successes because we knew the minute one person got something good happened to them, it was going to happen to us.